Hello everyone, my name is Diego Alfonso. I'm one of your hosts with the Florida Aviation Network. We're broadcasting live and in the clear from the Florida Air Museum at the Sun and Fun Complex in Lakeland, Florida. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Sun and Fun Fly-In and Exposition. Today, our guest is Mr. Mike Mower. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Diego. It's good to be here with you.
Mike, I'll tell you, I'm really going to enjoy this interview because what you and your organization does runs kind of very close to my past, and I readily identify with it. But before we get into the meat of things, what I really would like to ask you is to tell us your background in aviation. In other words, when did that spark just took place, that the dream began, and how you made that transition after you were an aviator to do what you're doing today? So if you would like, you got the floor.
Yes, Diego, my father was a 30-year Navy man. He enlisted in the Navy 6 months before Pearl Harbor as an aircraft mechanic. He survived kamikaze attacks and submarine attacks in the Pacific, was off the coast of Korea and Vietnam, and I grew up on naval air stations, watching those Navy fighters fly by and other airplanes go by, and it was there that, you know, when I would hear something go by in the sky, I would look up, and that's where the dream began. I can remember sitting in the library in high school with my girlfriend, now my wife of 38 years, with a flying magazine and pointing to maybe somebody doing aerobatics or an airplane landing on the glaciers in Alaska. I said, I'm going to do that someday. And she said, oh. But I didn't know how to get from there to there, right, from the high school to being a pilot. I was out of school for a couple of years, and I learned that one of the younger guys in my neighborhood had become a private pilot. So I went and talked to him and said, Kev, how did you do that? And so he gave me some advice, and I started taking private flying lessons for my private license. And you know, no longer was I just looking up in the sky as that airplane passed by, but I was up there.
That's right.
And,
now you were looking down.
That's right. I was up there looking down. Shortly after I started taking those lessons, I had maybe 20 hours of flight time. I met a missionary pilot, and he shared his stories of what God was allowing him to do in a very remote part of the world, flying for missionaries and flying for people in remote villages. And I thought about that, and I said, well, I could do that. Why don't I do that? And from there on, I geared all of my flight training and my maintenance training to get my mechanic's license towards missionary aviation. And that's how I got started on the path to where I am today.
That's great. You know, and it's interesting that you say that. Well, first of all, let me tell you, we got two things in common. Okay. Number one, I'm a mechanic also. All right. And I'm a pilot too.
Okay, so we could use you.
And number two, I visited Africa. I went to Africa to teach in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, at a town called Zaria. And I was impressed too with the work the missionaries do over there. And the runways that these people land on, these pilots land on there.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't even dare to drive a car there, and they would be landing in there. But enough of that word. Right. Let's get back to the association or the group that you represent is called JAARS. Am I pronouncing
That's
that
correct.
right? What does that stand for?
Well, JAARS began as the Jungle Aviation and Radio Service to provide aviation support and communication for missionaries working in the Amazon jungles of South America. Over the years, it has grown to provide other support services in the world task of Bible translation, aviation, maritime services, land transportation, IT, media, just so many different things that are being used to help make Bible translation possible among minority language groups around the world. So I became a member of JAARS, and I went to the Philippines, where I served for almost 20 years as a missionary pilot, doing what that other man had told me about when I was young.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you know, we were in places in the Philippines where some of the folks that I supported, to get to their village, by road or other ways, maybe by small boat if they're going to a far island, might take them 2 or 3 days of travel. And I would do that in 20 minutes in an airplane. We had airplanes and helicopters there, and we were supporting people who were doing Bible translation, community development work, health work. We also did search and rescue and disaster relief flying in that country. Anything you can use an airplane for, we used it for. I even had opportunities to fly survey flights for the Department of Natural Resources there, flying over the rainforest, and they're looking for eagles' nests in the tops of the trees, trying to get a survey of how many Philippine eagles are remaining. Things of that sort, using airplanes so that we could make it possible, especially for those missionaries in those remote areas, to be able to access that area and to live and to work and do the work that God had called them to.
Great. Now, and I guess the organization uses an array of airplanes.
We do. We do. Historically, we use the Helio Courier and the Cessna 206. I flew the Helio Courier, also a Super Cub and a twin-engine Aero Commander in the Philippines during the time that I was there. Today, we're transitioning our fleet, though, because of the lack of aviation gasoline or the high cost of aviation gasoline in many of the countries where we work. Jet fuel is much cheaper and much more available, so we're transitioning our fleet from a piston engine fleet to a turboprop fleet. So today in our fleet we have the Quest Kodiak, the Pilatus Porter, the PC-6, and we have a PC-12 as well. Right. We have some Cessna 206s remaining, and we have Bell Jet Ranger and Long Ranger helicopters and Robinson helicopters as well. So we have a variety of aircraft in the fleet today.
Yeah, I think that the future of aviation in that sense, not only in the missionary world, but also in those remote areas of, even if it's not missionary, they have to get rid of the piston engine because gas is just
yes.
not a good thing.
Well, especially in a country where there's only a few small light piston engine aircraft, you can't expect the oil companies to provide a lot of fuel because there's no market.
Exactly.
That way. So we're making that transition.
Now, you yourself, how many different airplanes have you been able to fly?
Well, in my career, I've flown about 30 different aircraft. I have about 7,000 hours. Predominantly, though, most of my flight time is in the Helio Courier.
Okay. I read in the notes 3 words that stuck with me. One is pray, one is serve, and one is give. You have an opportunity now to get to our audiences' hearts and pockets. Let them know what you need.
Well, that's why JAARS is here at Sun and Fun, to engage with people, to share with them about our work, what we're doing, to share with them that they could do the same thing, challenge them to become involved. They could be involved as a career missionary with us, a pilot, an IT specialist, a boat captain, whatever it might be. They could come and join us for a lifetime, just as I've done. They could come as a volunteer. We have a couple with us that just retired. He's an air traffic controller, retired from in Denver, Colorado, moved to North Carolina to our headquarters, and he's working in our hangar, helping us with our aircraft maintenance there. So they could come as a volunteer. They could come for a short term, for a couple of years, and help us out in many different ways. So we need a lot of different kinds of people: pilots, mechanics, IT professionals, Bible translators, school teachers, go down the list. Anything you do here in America, we can pretty much use on the mission field as well. So we challenge people to get involved either by going or by praying. We need people to stand behind us in prayer because it's tough over there sometimes. And to know that there are people with us that are praying for us and upholding us before God, sometimes that makes a difference of being able to stay and keep doing the work that we've been called to do. There's such an encouragement to know that we have an army of people back here praying for us, and so they could be involved in that way. They could give. We need resources. We're transitioning to $1 million aircraft. Now, we never used turboprop aircraft before because they were so expensive. But in the last 8 years, God has provided more money than He had in the previous 60 years so that we could buy the aircraft that we needed. But aircraft, maybe support a missionary, support a project overseas. We're raising funds for some boats for Papua New Guinea. And there's different ways to be involved financially with the organization as well to help make it possible for Bible translation to happen, for the work to go on. So we're here to challenge people to be involved and encourage them, learn their stories, where they're at in their life. Someone who's a pilot and a mechanic, we would like to talk with you, but that's what we're here for. It's fun and fun.
Okay, now, but there is, if I want to contribute monetarily, how do I do that?
Okay, the best and easiest way is to go to our website. That's www.jaars, JAARS.org, and there's a link there that would take you to ways to contribute, and it can tell you about some of our overseas projects or other ways that you can contribute right there online. It also gives mailing information or information to call in to contribute as well.
Okay,
ways
now
to do that.
I kind of mentioned monetary, but there are other types of donations besides just money that they can.
Yes, there are. One of our airplanes in Papua New Guinea, a PC-6, a Pilatus Porter, was given to us. Somebody said, I have one of those airplanes. Why don't I just give it to you? And it's over there in service today. Sometimes people want to give us airplanes that we really can't use, but we can sell those and use those funds for that. Folks that want to donate computers or other things that are helpful in Bible translation. So there are other ways to donate as well, other than just funds.
Okay. Mike, I'll tell you, I really enjoyed this conversation. Unfortunately, we have come to the point in the program that we're going to have to say goodbye. However, the work that you do, the work that JAARS do, needs to be commended. And I really think that the Lord is behind you guys. And I really, really, really believe that your wishes are going to come true and those airplanes are going to show up, because we're going to remind our people of that.
Okay, thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And
God bless you.
Thank you.
And you stay tuned. And very glad that you joined us today. My name is Diego Alfonso with the Florida Aviation Network, and we will be back very soon. Wait.